Hi, and welcome to our first WikiZoom. I'm really excited that we get to try this out, and we have friends, special guests that we're going to do. Today in our WikiZoom, we have a student submitted question. It was about leadership. And so all four of these people are going to be talking about leadership. I'm going to have them all introduce themselves. You know most of them, probably, but we'll have them introduce themselves. They're going to tell us where they are. And they're also going to share with us some leadership opportunities, some leadership roles that they had when they were in high school. And so I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Starr. You're going to start up for us, Mr. Starr.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see, or not see, but to interact with all of you. We really do miss you. My name is Liam Starkenberg, and I'm the director of NCA. In high school, I was involved in National Honor Society and also served as a teacher assistant for a computer class. And I was also involved in other activities like drama and cross-country soccer, outdoor track, and the math team. It was a lot of great opportunities.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Jones. Most of you know me by the name Miss Eberly. I worked at NCA from 2011 to 2017. And I want to give a special shout out to the NCA seniors who were my very first class that I ever taught. When I was in high school, I had lots of different leadership opportunities. I was an officer on student council and French club. I played volleyball, did National Honor Society, and I was a leader in my youth group, and I led a lot of different small groups at my youth group too.
Hi guys, my name is Miss McFall. I'm coming to you from Indiana, missing the warmth of Nicaragua, but more importantly, I'm missing all of you. When I was in high school, I didn't have any formal leadership titles attached to my name, but I was involved in many different activities, particularly marching band, my youth group, and small groups. And I found ways to be an unspoken or an untitled leader, if you will, in that, and to be a leader to my peers.
Hey everybody, it's Tom Seipel here. And yeah, when I was in high school, I was on a few different varsity sports teams and a lot of theater and arts, choir, National Honor Society. And so, yeah, really enjoyed participating in pretty much all extracurriculars. Oh, I'm from Savannah, Georgia.
For me, I was a leader in lots of different things. And sorry if this makes me seem even more nerdier than I usually was. I did a lot of stuff with Boy Scouts. And I was a leader in my church. I did a lot of things with middle school students when I was in high school. I was a leader in high school with small groups and things like that. That was where I spent a lot of my time with that. I'm in the library, so that's where I'm at. Our question today that we're going to be talking about is from a student, and this student asked us this question. They said, how do I know if I'm truly qualified to be a leader in youth group, the band, small groups, or even sports? And I would add to that all sorts of different ways. And so we're going to be talking about qualifications for leadership and what we think about leadership. And so Mr. Starr is going to start us off with that question. And so why don't we hear from Mr. Starr? Go ahead.
I think the fact that you're asking the question, are you truly qualified, is a fantastic starting point. I would say student leadership can be a great way to grow your faith. It can be a great way to get a wonderful experience and to make God maybe a more important part of your life. NCA definitely doesn't require or expect students to be perfect or even mostly perfect in order to be student leaders. We do genuinely desire students who who really want to be a good example to others. And that's both in and out of school. But if you want to be a leader and you want to set a good example for others, then I think you're qualified. 1 Timothy 4:12 says, don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Starr. So we're going to keep going with this question about qualifications, or how do you know you're qualified for to be a leader? And so, Mrs. Jones, would you go ahead with that?
Yeah, so when I think about this question, how do you know if you're truly qualified? I don't know if any of us are truly qualified to be a leader, for the simple fact that we're all sinners and we all fall short, we all make mistakes again and again. So instead, I would have us think of the question, am I willing to work on becoming a leader? Am I willing to work on the process? For example, am I willing to change? Am I willing to learn? Am I willing to grow? Am I willing to be stretched? I was thinking earlier about when I was in high school. I was about 16, and my youth pastor asked me if I would join the youth group leadership team. And I did not want to join because I did not see myself as a leader. I was really shy. I thought that I was very awkward. I got embarrassed easily. I didn't like speaking in front of other people. And even though I had a really good walk with the Lord, I didn't know how to share that with other people. And I certainly didn't think I was qualified to help other people in their walk of faith. So I did not see myself as a good leader, but my youth pastor, he encouraged me again and again. And finally I agreed, and I did not become a leader overnight, but I certainly changed, and I changed a lot in the process. And I learned a lot just by watching other leaders and seeing what made them a good leader. I learned how to serve other people, and I tried my best to help other people in any way that I could. And after a while, I realized that I was becoming a leader, right? That I was changing and that I was growing. And Mr. Starr shared a verse that I spent so much time studying in high school. And I know he just said it, but I'm going to share it with you again. It's 1 Timothy 4:12. It says, "Do not let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity." And if you're thinking about becoming a leader, ask yourself, am I willing to set an example? Like this verse says, am I willing to set an example in my speech? That's how I talk and text and communicate. Am I willing to set an example in my conduct? That's how I behave and treat other people I like and people I don't like. So I think if you are asking yourself these questions, if you are willing to work on the process, if you're willing to change, then I think, yes, you are qualified to become a leader.
That's thanks, Mrs. Jones. That's really really great advice. I love that. We're gonna pass it over to Miss McFall, and she's gonna give us a little answer to this question on how do you know you're qualified to be a leader?
So I think that the qualification, kind of like what Mr. Starr and Mrs. Jones were saying, is that we kind of almost sometimes I think build into that qualification, or like start to fill it in once we enter the role. But one thing that I think is very important, and that I kind of had to learn along the way, is that leaders are truly held to a higher standard. And so Mrs. Jones was talking about this at the end, that if you are in a leadership role, it's important to really be above reproach and to really take a look at your character. And to me, that means not who are you when you are in that role of leadership, whether that's at youth group or on the soccer field or up on stage leading a worship team. What it means is, how are you displaying your love of Christ when you are in the hallway, when you are in class, and how you're communicating with your friends. And people see those things. And it was a lesson that I had to learn kind of in a hard way, that people had to correct me when I was in high school and say, you're claiming to be a leader. I helped lead a prayer group with our marching band. I know, super cool. And I was behaving in a way, I was gossiping about some friends, and I had a friend come up to me and say, hey, you're leading this prayer group, but you're not acting the way that you are trying to like lead us to believe that you would have us be. And so understanding that you're going to be above reproach, and also in 1 Timothy, but in 1 Timothy 3, Paul gives a long list at the beginning of 1 Timothy chapter 3 about how an overseer is held to a higher standard, and it's a noble task. It's a good thing to desire to be in that position of leadership. However, you do need to be, it says now the overseer, or in this case, the leader, is to be above reproach, faithful, temperate, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach. And he goes on and gives a huge long list of all these qualities. Now, that's not to say that we are going to necessarily meet every single one or that we're never going to mess up, but understanding that the bar is set a little bit higher when you're in a role for leadership. And also, I would also encourage you to think about what's your motivation for wanting to serve as a leader. Are you wanting to serve as a leader because you want to be in the spotlight, or are you wanting to serve because it looks good on a college resume? Those aren't necessarily bad things, but if you're looking to serve, I'm hoping that it's because you want to help other people, that you want to encourage other people. If you're wanting to serve in the youth group, it's because you have a desire to see people come to know the Lord and to grow in their relationship with him. And so I would just say, think about why do you want to do this? College applications are not a bad thing to think about, but I hope that there's more to it than just that.
So thank you, Ms. McFall. It's a really good answer about that. And so we're going to finish up with our last answer from Mr. Seipel. So Mr. Seipel, what are the ways that somebody knows that they're qualified to be a leader?
Well, when I think of leadership, I mean, it really has impacted me. I think of my youth group, youth minister when I was in high school, and I wanted to be just like him. Wanted to have a family like him, wanted to have a Christian heart and faith like him. And there's a verse from Hebrews 13:7 that says, "Remember your leaders who spoke the word of God to you. Consider the outcome of their way of life and imitate that faith." And that really is a lot. That has a lot to be said for leaders. That a great leader is somebody that you look up to and that you want to follow, that you want to be, and want to emulate. And that really stuck to me all throughout high school and watching my youth pastor, Joe. And then there's a lot of characteristics that fall into that. The first one I think about is passion, love, motivation. When you're thinking about high school leadership, you need to have passion for what you are interested in. If you're going to be a leader on the soccer team, you probably love to play soccer. If you want to be a leader in one of the youth groups, you love being around the other youth and love to watch their faith grow and to provide a place for that to happen. So that's a key part. Some of the other teachers have mentioned integrity, a huge one. Proverbs 12:22 says that the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy. I value transparency, being genuine, and you can't say one thing and then do another, and people are watching if you're a leader, and that you have to lead by that example. You have to walk the walk and talk the talk. And another key thing, especially when we're dealing with Christian leadership, is you really need to seek out God's will. You need to pray about it. You need to put other people's, you need to be selfless and put other people's wants and things that are going to help others above what you might necessarily would like. And sometimes that's tough because we all have, when I'm doing worship, there's my favorite song that I love doing, but I know that, I can't do that song too much. And, this other song that these other people really like, even though I might not like it. Well, sometimes that it's not about me. A lot of times it's not about me. So being selfless is a big part of leadership and trying to lead the group as a whole and not just what you necessarily enjoy. And then the last thing I want to say, which is really important, at NCA, we have had some amazing high school leaders. And the one thing that a lot of students would come to me and say is, "Oh, mister, I don't like talking in front of people. I don't like being in front of that big group of people." And you know what? That is a big misconception about leadership. You don't need to be an extroverted person to be a leader. You don't need to be loud and crazy. Some people look at me and they think I'm too much. I'm too over the top. Some of the best leaders are the ones that don't need to say a whole lot. I can think of specific students in my mind right now who were some of the students that sat back and would just talk to other kids one-on-one and encourage them and love them. And they have been some of the best leaders that we have had. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking about, oh, I'm a shyer person or I'm an introvert, that doesn't matter. If you have that love and passion to want to teach others and want to lead them into the activity or a better relationship with Christ, that's really some of the biggest qualifications that you need. So I encourage you all to pray about it and think about God's will.
So one of the reasons why we started with this question was we are in the middle, in May right now, we're in the middle of a process of the leadership application. And so we really do believe that leadership is something that you can grow into. We believe that leadership is something that will build your faith. It's something that you shouldn't take lightly. That is going to be formative to you. It's probably something you're going to fail at. And yet we believe here at NCA International that that's worth the risk. We think it's worth the risk for us. And I truly believe it's worth the risk for you guys. And that can be kind of scary. Sometimes it can be frightening to think, like what happens if I do something wrong or if I get caught doing something? And our hope is that there's not fear in that, but there's a gift there from NCA. And so that's one of the things that you'll find right below us in the YouTube little description thing. You'll see a link that you can fill out. Like you could just right now take some time and fill out a leadership application. And we'd love for that for our students. If you want to hear a little bit more about leadership and what we think about it, there's another link to something that I filmed last week about leadership being something about service and sacrifice. And it's something that I think is a great message for us to hear and know what Jesus says about these things. And I want to encourage all of you as you listen to this and as you are thinking through different ways to be a leader, to find leadership opportunities, that you would look at it as a service opportunity for people around the school. We really do think that leadership can push people into some things that maybe they've never tried before. And I wholeheartedly believe that sometimes being put into service opportunities or even leadership opportunities will strengthen your faith. It'll grow you as a Christian. For some of you that are not believers, it'll challenge your faith and what you believe about Jesus. And you might be doing something and saying to yourself, wow, this is something that I really understand and I really do want to serve, and I want to serve Jesus, not just the school. And that's our hope for that as well. And so I want to say thank you to everybody that tuned in. Thank you for your sacrifice of time. Thank you for figuring out time zones and schedules and all of those different things. We all love and miss the fact that we don't get to do this all together, but we're excited that we have an opportunity to do this. We hope that we will be filming another one of these very soon, and you'll get a message about that if you're an NCA International secondary student. And so we're excited about being able to do that. So thank you for your time, and I think that's a wrap.